I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 31, Episode 10 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy,
I'm Jason.
I'm Christos.
I'm Nick.
and in today's episode, Owen from New Zealand asks how best to memorialize a gaming friend who has passed away.
Oh.
Will O asks about balancing different playgroup styles and balancing dedication to a game with real life. And Ken from Canada loves considering the biology of monsters. If you'd like to contribute a question or topic to the show, email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. And we could use some emails. I know we took a couple weeks of a little bit of a break. I think a lot of you did too. So start thinking about things and sending in emails, please.
Tell us how those home games that you ran for your family and friends while you were off.
Complain about the scheduling issues that you had while everyone was traveling or with their families, and how do you solve those problems, etc., etc., etc.
Or we're just going to start talking about the things that we think are interesting and, well, we'd
Yeah.
rather answer your questions.
Yes. All right. It is now January, so we have a new Indie Designer of the Month. This month, we are celebrating Gem Room Games, the creative team-up of Dan Phipps and Kali Lowry. Their work can be found at shop.gemroomgames.com for physical copies or gemroomgames.itch.io for digital copies. The feature this week, maybe be familiar with it. We did a one-shot of it here at Happy Jacks a while ago. Very fun. It was right before we came back to in-person gaming, though, so we should do one again that's in person.
All right.
And it is called 9 Lives to Valhalla. And in this game, you are a death metal Viking cat, guided personally by death. Didn't know I could do that. Just surprised myself a little.
So for the next AP, that's what you're doing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, earning your place in the drinking halls of Valhalla by casting a glorious wake of blood and carnage upon the blighted earth with each of your 9 lives.
Do they sip mead out of like a little dish?
No, they knock it off the table.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. This is a total...
And then they stare Odin in the eye.
Yeah.
They do it.
Yep.
Yep. This is a totally original RPG system with amazing art of cat Vikings, mouse knights, leash worshipping dog sorcerers, and all of that was made by Kali. She drew all the stuff for it. It's amazing. I love it. And it's $15 for a physical copy and $9 for the digital copy on itch.io. And you can find the links and all the stuff at gemroomgames.com. Our patrons will also be getting a free sample of one of their games this month. So stay tuned for that if you are part of our Patreon. And if you're not, go join to happyjacks.org/Patreon. Were you about to do that?
No, Mike might be a little low.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And Dana is a rad human being. I got to meet him at a convention a few years ago, and he was really cool.
Yes.
Liked him a lot.
And if you haven't seen the art for it, the printed version is worth it here. Like, the art is so good.
I definitely want to check it out. I have the itch version, and I know that, like, Dan sold, like, 10, 15 copies on the con when we were all drunk at one of the live shows.
Yeah.
And he just talked about it, and we're all like, yeah, that sounds amazing! And just got on our phones.
Yep.
That's when I bought it.
Yeah.
Exactly when I bought
Yeah.
it.
I actually didn't realize that there was a physical edition, and now
Yeah,
I'm just
I didn't
like,
either, and now-
I'm trying not to pick up my phone and order it right now because that sounds like such a QVC, like, well, I don't know. Do you think you'll order it soon? Like, but genuinely,
Do you want to be a death Viking feline? Order now.
yeah.
Absolutely. I love when we, like, I don't know, have cool people with amazing games that we can talk about. It's so good. All right. That's all of my spiel. Does anyone want to read the first email?
Me.
Okay.
All right.
Jason in the back, please.
Look, I got my nails done today. This is what happens. Hello, Happy Jackers. Owen here from the land next to the land down under, aka New Zealand. Yes, we finally have our Hobbit problem under control. Okay, good. I was going to ask about that. We were hoping to have a resurgence in the Nowin population, but alas, that hasn't happened that you are aware of. I had intended to write you about a gaming horror story, but the following event earlier in the year put paid to that and has made it too painful to share. The following deals with loss, so please be prepared. That's excellent content warning, so thank you for that. In February this year, 2022, we lost one of the players in our gaming group. He was 31. It sent shockwaves through our group. He had been a part of our gaming group for over 10 years. While he had drifted away a bit from playing in our RPG group, see the unmentioned horror story above, he was still our friend, and we still played other games together, minis, games, and board games. To be honest, his health and diet were not the best, but 31, come on. Please, people, look after yourselves. That's not me editorializing. This is Owen's call to all of us. The 1-year anniversary of his passing is coming up, and we are planning on running a memorial game. I'm going to tie this into one enduring memory I have of him. Several years ago, he proposed to DM a Pathfinder game for us. I believe it may have been the Kingmaker Adventure Path, but my memory is vague at the best of times. Whichever one it was to be heavy on intrigue and social interactions. We conspired to annoy him before it had even begun. What, players?
As good friends do.
He could be a trying player for a GM to manage, so time for payback, right? We proposed to play a group of uncouth outlanders comprising of barbarians, witches, and shamans, and could only communicate in single-syllable words like, ugh. His reply, star, you guys. I'm sure you can guess what was in the blank. I have no idea whatsoever.
Maybe fuck.
I'm scandalized.
Howdy. Shucks, guys.
Yeah.
Cats.
Cats.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
cats.
Viking cat.
Yeah. The game never ran. Whether because of our tomfoolery or just general scheduling and other games in the queue, we don't know. So on the anniversary of his passing, I will run that barbarian game as a one-shot. I plan to get an inflatable caveman club to bash my players with. This is admirable. You made an excellent choice, sir. Toasts will be raised and tears will be shed. Drink. Oh, yep.
Is that drink?
Oh, I'll drink for Christos.
Thank you.
Well,
I was like, I had one. I know I did.
drink will flow like a river. I will send the PCs to join our friend in Valhalla. That's good. There are many good cats waiting for you.
Yes.
All set to a soundtrack of his favorite heavy metal music. It will be glorious. In the longer term, I intend to bring one of his characters into every campaign I run as an NPC, as well as to create unique artifacts in my various game worlds that reflect on aspects of his life. So, my question to you, how would you pay tribute to a player that will never take their seat at the table again? I hope you don't have to. Yours in gaming, Owen. P.S. After his passing, his mother did not know what to do with his gaming collection. She set up a display of his painted miniature armies and gave the rest to us. This totaled 8 banana boxes full of magic cards and models, mostly new in the box or still on sprues. 8 banana boxes. I want to share in your enthusiasm, but I don't know what a banana box is.
It's like one of those card boxes that are like super long.
Okay, long box. We each selected some to keep as mementos. The rest we've been selling off and donating the proceeds to charity. Heart Kids, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thus far, we've raised over $2,000 New Zealand dollars. I think is actually what they're called. I'm not
Nins dollars.
I'm not being flip. I actually think it's a New Zealand dollar.
I believe it.
Yeah, you're right.
So have a think about what you have in your collection, what will happen to it when you travel to the next plane. I know it's made me reevaluate my unpainted minis, aka the pile of shame. That was unnecessarily personal.
I feel attacked.
Yeah.
inappropriate. PPS, keep up the great work with the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, the question.
Very sorry that you lost your friend.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it sounds like you are doing an amazing job of paying homage to his memory. And I am delighted by the inflatable club that you will be backing your players with.
Yeah, that's very
joy.
good. That's
Yes.
very good.
I have some players I'd like to do that too.
All right.
So I'm going to actually start with a word of caution.
Okay.
I have a friend, and what he always used to do, he was a game master, and what he always used to do would be to put his parents in a game, and he would describe them. And invariably, his players, who didn't know they were his parents necessarily, would go after them and kill them because they must be important somehow, or you wouldn't have bothered describing these people in the thing. And so he eventually stopped doing it because it was just this painful reminder of his parents getting killed every game
Players are
with these
terrible.
people. Right. And I'm not disputing that
No,
part. But what I would say is, if you are going to include your friend, maybe make him so that that isn't a situation that can happen, because that might be traumatic if you have to revisit that, especially when you get to gaming with people who didn't know him in the first place.
Yeah.
And wouldn't know why this was important, and it's kind of hands off. I really like the idea of having him be the progenitor of a bunch of artifacts or other cool things that happen in there. Like, to me, that seems like an excellent way to keep his name and presence alive without risking NPC death.
Yeah. I might have misunderstood, but I think he's going to include his PCs from different campaigns and games.
Oh.
So not his actual friend as his friend, but maybe I misunderstood.
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
I think I
No,
misunderstood.
I think that's a good read of it. Yeah.
You should still be careful though, because if you are attached to these NPCs because they are his NPCs and part of his creativity, same thing, same warning applies. Like, it could be upsetting to you when they just like,
Yeah.
we're gonna burn the house that they're in, because that's what players do.
I know something I would want to do, just because I've thought of trying to memorialize, let's say, my own characters, which is not nearly the same thing. But I think one thing I would maybe want to do is, rather than embody an actual like living character in that world, which can become like, well, would he actually say that, or blah blah blah, or would his character say that? I don't know. But having those like legacy artifacts or things like, you have like spell names or devices or inventions or whatever that are attributed to this person that, well, they can't be mischaracterized. It's just Tensor's floating disk or whatever. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head. But
I was going to say unnamed mega corporation
right.
has tons of spells that are named after people.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good point. In a game I was running, we had someone leave the game, and I was, in my head, when someone leaves the game for whatever reason, you can take their character and use the NPC in your game. It's Creative Commons at that point. But a lot of my players were really upset by that idea. Like, they're like, no, that's his. You can't touch it. Don't bring it into the game. And so I was taken aback. I thought that was bizarre, but like, they felt that way. And so I realized, I was like, oh, well, maybe then how I view it is different than others. And so I should respect that.
Yeah.
And so it changed my view on how that stuff works.
Interesting.
Still, if someone dies in the game, though, it's mine. If you leave, then maybe not. But
Oh, that's what that document I had to sign.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't read it through.
Okay, this is gonna sound awful. I've actually thought about this quite a lot because I love Stu, but he
Jesus Christ.
isn't the most healthy person. He's been one of my best friends for literally like 20 years. But literally anytime any cold goes around, like, he ends up locked in his head. Stop laughing.
like, he's like, can you please sign your will here? That'd be great. It's taken care of.
Honestly, Stu and I have had legal documentation signed that if one of us... Yes. Okay, anyway.
I just want to support Kenny here for a second, because I know we're all laughing at this, but he has self-described him as having the constitution of a bag of dead cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I love him, but Yeah, he's not the paragon of health. And he's still fine. He's not dead. I promise. Totally.
As of the
promise.
recording of
As
this
the
show.
recording of this show.
This is
Nothing
how
is
rumors
wrong.
get started,
No.
Kimmy.
Sorry.
So that's why he gave up the show. He did it. Oh no! This is not true. I'm not.
He's not. He's dating people. That's why he gave up the show.
Oh, good for him. I didn't know that.
I just found out like 2 days ago. He's like, I'm
right
dating
on.
this show. I was like, oh. It was very-
Hey,
anyway, sorry. I don't know.
right.
I don't know if he wants that on the air, but too late. But
No, we can take it back.
Yeah. Fix it up.
anyway,
Yep.
so I love Stu, but this is something I've kind of thought about before, and there are things that we have and that mean a lot to me personally, especially from like our L5R campaign and stuff that has come back around, like the swords that we had, like when he reintroduced that, like in a campaign, like 3 campaigns later, like that was like truly like emotional, like for me and like the other people at the table, Dave and everybody were like, oh, the swords, remember the swords from when we first started APs generations ago. And I don't know, I feel like having like items like that in the game, or maybe even like honestly I might even like actually have some sort of cool katana like made or something that like we'd hang here in the studio or somewhere like that, something to, because I kind of struggle with having something in a game when it's about someone who is like real and has been a real person. Because while that is an amazing homage, and I love the idea of running like a one shot as like a group, you know, memorial together. That's
a group
fantastic.
of people who knew this
Yeah,
person.
exactly. I love that.
As a celebration.
Yeah, exactly. And like all the in jokes are there. I'm sure we'd do a shit ton of that. We'd probably have like a mini con
Yeah.
and just like all fucking game until we just like couldn't anymore. But I like the idea of having something that we could all kind of, or the people who knew like would come in and be like, oh yeah, and the people who didn't would be like, oh, cool sword, and you know, but it would just mean something to the people who realized what it meant.
Right.
So it wasn't like pressure. I wouldn't have to worry about, you know, people destroying the katana in the game, because if you're destroying the katana that's hanging on my wall at my house, what are you doing?
Yeah. Jeez.
You know, things like that. So I don't know. That's sort of the thing that pops to mind for me. And also just always having like the alcohol they liked,
Oh yeah. For
and
sure.
just like having that be a thing. Like always having a little bit of it in the fridge, and even if nobody knows, like that's just my little way of remembering.
Stu's memorial.
Memorial.
I'll get there.
Okay.
I'll get
Memorable memorial.
Yes.
Jeez. Have a stroke?
memorial. Who's making burnt toast? Stu's memorial undrinkable IPA.
Yeah. Actually, that would be amazing to
Yes.
go to a brewery and have them do like a short run for someone. Oh my gosh, that'd be
Yeah.
amazing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, you can totally do that. A bunch of places do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is the crux of this, right? Is Owen wants to throw this thing in memorial of his friend that's passed, and like he's found such what he believes is gonna be a good way of doing that. And I think that's what it comes down to, is how you know that person. They were your loved one. They were your person that you really cared about. You know what they're gonna be okay with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really good.
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. I mean, I know a lot of us on the Discord and other things were really affected when one of our members passed.
Yeah.
And a lot of us played with him. A lot of us had interactions with him, and so I know I thought about the same kind of stuff. Like, is there a way that we could pull something together as well in this kind of thing once we've all kind of run through those emotions?
Yeah.
Don't do anything too early, right? Because
Yeah.
then everyone's just sitting around sobbing, and it's like a whole different beast.
Yeah, that was hard, and it's interesting because that person was someone all of us had known for so long, but only online. So it was an interesting situation where they were such a big part of our day to day. At least me, like speaking for myself, you know, someone I talked with multiple times a day, almost every single day, and we'd known for a while, and they were very open about the situation, and they were terminal and they knew it, and like helping support them through all that. But yeah, I've struggled with that too, with that same person, because it's like, how do you memorialize someone that you technically don't know? I did write a letter to the family, like saying how much they meant to us and as a community and stuff. And I got short but very nice email back. Like, I don't think they quite knew what to be like. Hey, we're an online community that your loved one meant so much to us, even though we'd never met you or them. And also, it may also have been like a translation thing that very like I don't know if English was something that they were super fluent in, but it was interesting, and thinking of ways to kind of memorialize that person is such a challenge. And with Mook too, we had Mook, who is an amazing person who's a really big part of the GURPS community.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we lost him too. And that was just such a big blow because so many of us had known him and played in his games and things like that. And he's kind of got his own legacy with his big, like all the stuff he's contributed that will continue to live on in the GURPS community.
Yeah.
But it's just strange to have people who you often sometimes take for granted because they're part of your gaming community, and then just like suddenly they disappear.
Yeah, that's one of those examples of like Mook was somebody I heard about since coming into the Happy Jacks community.
Yeah.
I never got to play at his table, and I've always meant to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Every con, I was like, oh, I'm going to sign up for Mook game. Oh, it's full.
Yeah.
All right, I get it next time.
Always full.
And-
Yeah.
Always full.
Like immediately.
I was fortunate enough to get in on one of those games and actually have an enjoyable GURPS game.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things.
Only good one I ever had, actually.
I was trying to be less negative than
I'm
I
sorry.
am, but I usually am. No, I got called out for shitting on GURPS. So I was specifically trying to be
You're
better.
allowed to. You're allowed to. But as someone who I enjoy GURPS, but Mook had a gift for really making it like all the system invisible and just having the story go. It was really amazing, especially with something that is pretty crunchy. But I think it's really key is like it's going to be different for every person. Like what I would do to memorialize Stu is different from what I do to memorialize Mook, which is different from other community members and things like that. So it's like it's so individualized, and that's what I love about what you've described in this email, because it is so perfect and individualized for this one person that you lost. And it's like I can just imagine like whatever you believe in, like what, like if your friend's on the other side looking at this, he's gonna be like, yeah, I love it, hit him harder with the thing, turn up the volume on the heavy metal. And that's the kind of thing I love, and I think part of that's from being in the fair community for so long, and we do like big wakes usually with like people who've never actually met you still show up and everybody talks about you, and it's just amazing. It's one of the most amazing things about fair is like that vibe when we lose people from the community, and this just like has that same vibe energy, and I just love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I talked too much. Sorry.
No. That was just the thoughtful moment. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
So and thank you so much for being trusting enough to write in and share about your friend, and definitely like even if you don't want it read on the air, like write back and tell us how that amazing game goes.
Yeah,
I
we
specifically
want
want
to know.
to know more. I hope it goes well,
Yeah.
and I hope all of you and your friends heal. And that's
Absolutely.
I know that's hard. So
All right, next email. I can read it if no one else wants to. All right, I will do it. Hello, jovial jackers and delightful dish canoes. From Omaha, New England.
Me.
Me.
New
Me.
England, really?
New England?
Northeast.
Northeast.
It's Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Oh, I have no idea. It's NE.
Oh.
By the way,
Omaha.
Oh, yeah. I'm really bad at those, okay? They write in and laugh at me, so I have to keep the shtick going.
Omaha.
yes. Oh, I forgot what's the
Wyoming.
shtick.
Also, there's like, come on. Like, you cannot, like, there are other Omahas.
Here's the thing.
Okay.
Our postal system made a huge error when they went with 2-letter abbreviations instead of 3-letter abbreviations.
Accurate.
Because that would make everything so much clearer.
Yes. Absolutely.
The only hole up would be like Alaska and Alabama, but you do one ALA and one ALB. Done.
Accurate.
I like that Hawaii would be ha.
Instead of hi.
I can point on a map to where everything is. I don't send letters very much. You think after Kickstarter I'd be better at this. Okay.
Oh boy.
I heard your call for more emails in your latest episode,
Aha.
season 31, episode 3. It's a little late. Okay. I thought that after about 4-ish years of listening, I would finally contribute. Thank you. Today, I bring you a story and a question about 2 D&D groups that I was part of over the summer that were polar opposites of each other. First group was the quintessential Beer and Pretzels D&D game. We never took things too seriously, and usually the game was just an excuse for all of us to hang out and make jokes with each other.
What? What's that like?
I had a lot of fun with this group, but I found myself eventually getting annoyed that I was usually the only one putting in most of the work, and the one that was most attached to playing RPGs, and I wasn't even the DM, so like role playing.
Yeah.
Okay. The second group was the antithesis of the first group. Everyone was very dedicated, and the DM expected all of us players to be well versed in the world and the people that inhabited it. While I enjoyed playing this group for the immersion and the great role playing, I didn't like the expectation of needing a master's in the DM's homebrew world.
Oh.
There was a lot of lore. I'm talking should write a book lore. And the rigidity of the scheduling, missing a session felt like calling in sick to work or school. This brings me to my question. When it comes to the time needed and emotional investment in outside work to play TTRPGs, where's the sweet spot? Similarly, what is all y'all's ideal placement on the spectrum? Have any of you experienced similar groups or noticed such an extreme difference while playing with a different group? I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm very busy with school and work, so I don't have a lot of time to work on hobbies outside of those. But at the same time, I hate to feel like I am the sole motivating force in an RPG group's plays every month. Also, to cap it off this email, do you ever find yourself in Omaha, New England? For whatever reason. Oh my God. If you're listening to the podcast, you're missing Jason's Stop by Spielbound Board Game Cafe. We have the largest collection of board games in the U.S., I think anyway, and a good variety of coffee and cocktail
Oh,
drinks.
hell yeah.
That's amazing.
You can serve cocktails there? That's awesome.
I work there and host trivia and would gladly give all of your free drinks to an hour of entertainment. That has kept me...
That does say a free drink. It's legal language there.
For the hours of entertainment that has kept me sane through school and life. Hope to keep listening for years to come. Keep on jacking. Thanks, Will O.
Cheers, Will.
Huzzah. Yeah, absolutely. And write in more emails. So what is the sweet spot? All of you are forbidden from talking about my scheduling. Just kidding.
If anyone knows the sweet spot, please write in to happyjacks.org.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
I see. I'm the person who would happily go along with that rigid, everybody better be here. Like, I would happily join that group. I almost would join that to play. What's the last thing I want to play in the world? Like D&D 3.5. Yeah. Hardcore by the rules.
With all ships in space.
Yeah. Yes. Spelljammer 3.5.
All right.
Is like probably the most horrendous thing I could think of to have to roleplay. Which, again, if that's your thing, great. It's not mine. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying you're bad for liking it. But if it was a group where everyone was militantly ready to meet every week at the same time and show up even when their day was shitty and do the thing, I might join that group. Because
I feel like you just have like personal frustration at this moment.
I love role playing, and every group I've ever been a part of has always had last minute cancellations because that's real life, right? Like you can't get mad about it. Like that shit happens, and honestly, if somebody cancels because they need to take care of themselves, that's good. That's a good thing that they're doing.
But Jason's still angry about it.
But I want to role play. I want to play pretend. God damn it!
There are important things that have to happen.
This is why we started streaming.
Yeah.
Because the pressure of the audience usually is enough to make people show up on that same day.
Or if they're waffling, it's enough
Yeah.
to sort of push them over the edge. Be like, oh, I don't want to let down everybody and all the fans.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the thing about like memorizing that person's whole world, though, that might be even with
Yeah, but like having to absorb someone's like individual lore that they generated, like
like I understand like expecting them to know what their character would know or to get like the rules down basically and things like that, but to like like what you said, the need a master's degree in his homebrew world. I'm like,
Yeah.
yikes, yikes. That's a lot. I don't have time in my life for that. Like,
on the other hand, if they're meeting every week on time,
It's like I'm sold.
I might.
Schedule is a promise.
So
It
we
is.
we didn't meet all the time, but I did have a friend, ironically the same guy who I talked about with his parents in the thing.
Yeah.
He had his own world, and it was like that. It was like he had all of these countries, and you had to know what all the countries did and what their specialties were, and all the da stuff. The one saving grace that he had was it wasn't riffs, but it had that idea where people can come from out of time or other places.
yeah.
That helps.
So I just made characters that did not come from there, and that way I had an excuse not to know what any of this stuff was.
Yes.
Play the fish out of water.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. I have a little bit of this right now. Emily or Erica Odd in the chat room is like, "Well, you run the One Ring," and I'm like, "Yes, I know that," and I know Erica's just joking, but like, there's a little bit of a difference between me knowing a bunch about Tolkien and then deciding to run the One Ring because I know that, and like showing up to join a game and having someone be like, "Here is the tomes of my what should be a novel." And probably is somewhere on my hard drive, but I'm not brave enough to tell you that. You know.
Well, attacked again. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, because with the One Ring, Tolkien is essentially public property, you know, like that, or public knowledge.
Yes.
You know, a lot of terms that had never been used before were popularized by his books. So,
Well, but also I haven't listened to it, shame on me, but I don't think Kimmy is requiring everyone to know everything about Middle Earth
Not even
in
at all.
order to be able to play.
they were quizzed beforehand. There was an entrance exam.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
And she does have an actual
60
elf playing in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. People.
I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Kai's now.
Kai is 100% no. Like, they speak Sindarin, I'm like, wow, okay.
That's fucking rad.
Yeah, it's really wild. But like Jay, despite failing the entrance exam, I still allowed him to play and join the game. But he did the same thing. He joined as a hobbit who's like very familiar with their little part of the world, and the rest of the world's like, wow.
Yes.
That's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've just gotten more comfortable with, and it doesn't bother me anymore, is telling a group ahead of time, like, look, there is 5 of us. If one of us can't make it, I'm going to go for it, right? But if 2 people can't make it, we're just going to call game.
Right.
And that's fine. You know, no shade. Everyone's got to do what they got to do. But if one person's not here, we're going to soldier on and figure out what your character did later. And honestly, it was the most awesome thing when in the Pirates game just now, what was it called?
Cast-offs?
Cast-offs. There's no way anyone could remember that. Omaha, New England. Pooja missed 1 game. Totally legit reasons. Life, you know, shit happens. But what happened in her absence set up the entire germ of the Shadowlands. And she and I talked a little bit offline and like started generating ideas. And then it just wrote itself. It was awesome. So it was one of those moments where somebody who couldn't be there, we made up some of that gap, and it created more story than there was going to be in the first place.
Yeah.
So
To be fair, I didn't name New England.
to be fair,
To be fair.
You named the file.
the chat to give you that one.
No. I am pleased with myself because I thought of that sass myself. Yes. I think that I don't know. I keep thinking like coming back to balance, and I'm really struggling with this right now because I have a lot of things I'm trying to balance, and
What?
I'm really putting a lot of time into trying to build Happy Jacks and get the studio like in a better place. I mean, it's great, but I always want to make it better, and like also still being a good mom. And there's those days where I have to sit and type show notes while I put my daughter in front of Thomas the Tank Engine cartoons. so that she'll be distracted long enough that I can finish typing the show notes and things like that. And I feel guilt on that. And there's like a whole bunch of like drama like with that. But there's also nights where I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything for Happy Jacks this night. And, you know, this is night for family. This is night for this or that. I'm trying to do now. Luckily, I'm in a Slack with some other designer friends who are like, we're trying to hold each other accountable. So like every day I'm trying to do one thing for my game design stuff. And it doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's like sending out a tweet about something or a game, or I hate Twitter now. But anyway, you know, just there's like one thing. So I try and do one thing every day. So I think just like playing with that. And as someone who has ADHD, I already have trouble balancing things and keeping things in a sort of balanced place. And rather than I'm going to write for the next 48 hours straight, I'm not going to think about anything else. Oh wait, I forgot to eat. I haven't eaten for 12 hours. I should probably do that. You know, stay away from that. But like finding that and really blocking off time is kind of the thing that helps me. And I've been trying to do that with the One Ring too, because there is, even though I know a whole bunch about the world, there's a lot of things that I have to refresh myself on or plan, because it's not a system where you can just like make things up. You can, but you have to make sure if you're going to have an encounter, you have to have, you know, so the stats for the foes and things like that. So while I have kind of like my random stats that I can just pull out if they pop into something random, I also want to plan things out a little more than I would with some other systems. So there's certain nights where I sit and I make sure I do that. Mm-hmm. And I double check that I have all the names of things written, because Kai will know.
And translate it into 3 languages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. Actually 4, because there's Quenya, Sindarin, and then the new Khazad-dûm. Yeah. Which is what they speak, the dwarves speak in this age of, yeah, anyway. Yeah, so I have all my phonetics in my giant paper that's over there. But, you know, and just finding those times. And the hardest part of that is letting there just be a point where you just let it go. Like at some point on Monday, I have to give my daughter dinner. I have to make sure she gets,
Is that a rule?
Yeah, I mean, I have to feed her.
Every day?
Yeah, I know. I have to show up on on Monday. I have to teach kids all day, so I have to have my lesson plans ready. I have to go pick up my daughter after school. I have to get her fed. There's all these other things I have to make sure I do. So at some point, I have to stop prepping the game. Mm-hmm. And at some point, I have to be like, okay, this is how far I got. This is what I got. I'm going to run it with this. And just kind of letting that go. It's harder when you're a player, I think, and you're trying to balance expectations given to you by a GM. I think as the GM, it's easier to set the expectations for a group.
And you're more interested in GM, right? It's your world, it's your design, it's your baby, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
It is easier with your GM.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys, but like nothing kills a game more for me than when there starts to be multiple cancellations.
Yeah.
Right? Like if there's like 3 weeks where someone cancels every week, like I'm like, well, I guess we should just wrap up the campaign and move on to something else, you know, which is a completely irrational thought, but it's how I think.
Yeah.
And so for me, I do set very tight expectations for my group. I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. If anyone can't make it, we don't play. But if we don't play for 3 weeks, I'm going to stop the campaign. You know, it's very important to me that people cut out that time. And I make them tell it. You have to be here for this. I will not run this game without this happening. Mm-hmm. And
Does that include like planned breaks? Like over the holidays?
Yeah, totally. Like we've been off all of December. Like no, that's a given.
It's just like cancellations.
Yeah,
last minute cancels.
Yeah, last minute cancellations.
I totally get that. That's right.
Like I would not. It's too. I don't know about you guys, but like hobbies are kind of the only thing keeping a lot of us sane these days. You know what I mean? So like I want to have my hobby. I'm with Jason. Like I want this to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I will say I just wrapped up a home campaign where we actually went through the beginning, the middle, and the end, and it was lovely. It was Adam was GMing it, and had a really good time doing that. But I will say, I'll just out myself right here. We played on Tuesdays. On Monday, I always texted the group and said, "Everybody good for tomorrow?" And just in case somebody forgot, or there were scheduling conflicts or whatever. Because I'd rather know Monday.
For sure.
Which is fine. All that stuff can happen. But that's, I guess, how I inject my aspect of, like, everyone good for tomorrow? Hopefully.
And then every week I text, if you're not good for tomorrow, you can come play Starscape if you want to play test it. Please play test it. Please play test. Please please. And I'm like,
I replied yes to all of those.
yes,
texts.
you would. Everyone's like, oh, that sounds fun. I can't. Oh no, I just had to stay in. Sorry.
Hey, I've answered yes to most of those that I could, that
Yes,
I wasn't already
I know.
committed
Committed
for.
for other things.
Yeah.
I know.
What are other things? I don't have it.
Look, I have to feed my daughter and
Same.
Is that your cat?
Same.
Sustaining life of a small human, and that's my only other hobby right now. RPGs and keeping her alive.
Well, I think that all of us, somewhere in between those two poles is the middle, and I don't think any of us really have a perfect description of what that is like or how to set that up. Because if we did, we'd tell you. It's not like we're keeping the secret Happy Jack's hoarded knowledge about how to do that. The best thing that I've been in for one that hit the middle ground was the Game Master decided that he was going to open up this, it was Tomb of Annihilation for 5e, and he just invited like 10 people and said, show up when you can. If you're not here, that's fine. We're just going to keep playing and you'll just come back whenever you come back.
Yeah.
And it was great because
Yeah.
it sort of took all the pressure off. And also it boiled down to a core people of about 6 or 7 of us who were always there if we could possibly make it.
Yeah.
I think I missed one session in the whole year because I had a work thing.
Wow.
Mhm.
But everyone else, was close to that as well. And I think because the pressure was off, that let people get, actually be committed without feeling like it was some sort of a schedule or a second job that you have,
Yeah.
which sometimes a really strict schedule can feel like.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we had plenty of time to poke around and joke, and during the game we had, comedic moments and stuff like that. So it didn't have to be 100% serious. We were having a good time. So that maybe that'll help.
I really admire that GM's ability to do that, because I'm in thinking about it, if I'm being honest, I think my ego would be at risk of, as the GM for that game. Like as a player, I think that would be fine. I would show up, whatever. But as the GM, the idea of just inviting a bunch of people and say, hey, if you can show up, versus like, come and participate in the story I'm weaving for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they shouldn't do that. I'm like, my mind is blown.
That's
What?
Well, it's a lot easier when it's off a module because he didn't have to worry about it being his particular.
That would make a difference. Okay.
Because it's going wherever it's going, so you kind of be like, oh, okay.
Sure. It's not my precious story
Exactly.
that I'm unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
So I've wanted to talk about this for a long time. Actually, like, was meant to send an email about this, but like West Marches style games,
Mhm.
right? The idea of, for those that don't know, I'm sure most people do, is like they have a spot and then they have like a grid,
Yeah.
which is like all of the things, and then everybody can come in, come out, whatever it is, and there's like different groups and people like compete against each other. It's a whole thing, going out and doing the thing, finding the land, exploring, doing whatever. I thought this was such a great idea. I got a bunch of my friends. I ran it.
Mhm.
And I hated every second of it.
Aw.
Really?
Like, I hated it so bad because I felt like I couldn't make the interpersonal connections I wanted to. I couldn't
Yeah,
get
that's-
those stories to happen between those characters. I couldn't have that stuff happen for me. And it was like, that's why I, as a GM, play.
You want to make them kiss.
Right. It's true. Or at least fight something. But no, it's true. Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted that interaction, and I couldn't get it out of that style of game.
Mhm.
And I mean, I can understand if you have a module or whatever, and it's like it's going to play out the way it plays out, but that's not why I GM.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm a player too. I want to enjoy my game as much as my players enjoy my game.
Mhm.
Thank you for articulating this much better than I did. That is precisely what I wanted to be able to say. So thank you.
I've been thinking about it for literally a year now.
Yeah, that is
It's like right there on my tongue.
Profound.
Yeah, it's funny because the game that started this whole Happy Jacks thing, the 4E game that Stu started, that like it was before we really, I mean, we kind of had started a podcast, but it started before the podcast, and then they're like, let's start a podcast, like part 2, like was like that because so many people wanted to play because 4E had just come out and it had kind of started this resurgence in a bunch of people coming back to the hobby who had left it. And so I think I feel like we had like 12 or 13 people technically in that D&D 4E game. Generally between, I don't think I mean, like people came and dropped off. Like that was the total number, but we
Right, it
didn't
was
all
never
show
more
up.
than-
Yeah, but usually I think the biggest number we ever had at one session was like 8, because we had people who joined the game and then like came to a session or two and then like never came back, and we're just like, oh hey, I have to drop out. So altogether there were 14 people through the course of it. But there were the core. I think there were 6 of us who regularly showed up. It was like Stork and Tappy and me. I feel like Claire came in and out sometimes. Our friends Jack and Linnea were there fairly regularly. I'm probably forgetting, but Casey and Bruce were both in it. Like, if you've been listening a long time, these are very familiar names. If you haven't been, this means nothing to you. But I was there, and that's all that's important. And it kind of had that vibe where like it was interesting because people would drop in, and it was sort of like when you had a core cast of characters on a sitcom. And it was like, oh, okay, there's like Tappy's characters there. Oh, and there's Adina, Kimmy's Warlock, and all these things. And then it was like...
And then Kramer busts
yeah.
in.
And I mean, they were still characters we like knew, because like we'd been playing with them. But they always had like excuses why they went away. And it was just kind of like a little odd that way. But so many of us had been away from the hobby for so long, it didn't really matter. I don't think I like, if I played that same game now, I think it would drive me up a wall. I think I would be absolutely super frustrated. But at the time, it was like, okay, this is super cool. Like, my only other experience had been MMOs, and then like once trying to play D&D in junior high with like a bunch of 12-year-olds. And that
Really?
didn't go well.
I don't see why that would be bad.
Junior neckbeards, future neckbeards of America.
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
Sequence beards, like features neck beard.
none of us had any idea. Like, we tried to read things, it was just like wild. But so I don't know. I feel like there was it was super fun in a lot of ways because we always knew the game would go on. Like, no matter what, we didn't have to worry about it. We hung out, we'd spend time with each other. But I think we've developed, I definitely have developed since then into a more role play focused player and GM. And I think a lot of that is lost when you have kind of those opt-in and outs. I've seen people suggest like, hey, there's 6 openings in my game, and there's 10 people or 8 people, wherever, who are technically in the campaign. The first 6 people to sign up and get to play. Mm-hmm. And I was in an online D&D game that was like that fairly recently. And it made it kind of exciting. And it, he knew he'd have enough people every week. So he got to, and he kind of planned it episodically. And then, so he knew he was going to do it every week. And then the rest of us kind of like, oh, I'm going to sign up. Okay. Am I going to, it gave that pressure of, okay, you're going to dedicate yourself to it this week because if you take a slot, you have to be there. Mm-hmm. So it kind of ended up kind of the same thing where, the people, the same basic group of people ended up playing almost every week.
Did you have to like set a Ticketmaster timer every week? Or could you just say, I'm going to be there for the next 4 weeks for sure?
Yeah, no, I have to admit, like, I was one of the people who ended up not finishing that campaign.
Oh, okay.
Because, we were playing and then it was like, oh, I'm taking over Happy Jacks. See you guys. I have a lot to do. I'll see you all later. Enjoy.
But I like that idea because it makes it so that if you do have something going on, like I felt bad when I was taking those Saturdays off in cast-offs,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like, well, sorry, I have this thing that's happening. But that is a nice way that you can be like, oh, I'm going to a wedding, and not feel like you're tanking the group for some stupid family wedding.
Yeah, well, I think that's important to know too. I think like that stuff is important. Like, there are things that, as much as we all love gaming, like, especially if you're gaming with your friends, like there are things that are more important. Your stupid family wedding, whatever it is, like going to watch your kids play that night. Just like,
my friends are going to forgive me if I miss a game. My family might not forgive me if I miss a wedding.
Also, you might not forgive yourself. Like, 10 years down the road. And I think that's one of the things that, like, we capture here, because it's kind of like, since we don't pay people and we're like we're friends playing with each other because we want to. You say we're friends and that you want to be here.
Oh, I just had a flashback of like my lav.
The lav.
Yeah.
the old studio.
I just went,
touch my mic.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Thanks to our amazing Patreons, we now have shotgun mics above our heads.
Sorry to interrupt you. That just was a very visceral, like,
I do that too, especially when I'm GMing. I'm like, oh god. Oh, okay, everything's fine. Everything's cool.
We're free. We're free. Free range.
Yeah. But I think that's important. Like like a lot of other streaming and podcasts and stuff, like people miss sometimes, but I think it's important to also realize like real life happens. Sometimes there are things that are more important. Sometimes people get sick. Sometimes whatever happens, and people have to go on, and you might still play. You might end up canceling, whatever it is. Like, I don't know. I think it's important to show real gaming and what it's really like.
You know, one thing I appreciate about the modern era.
Is that something you appreciate about me?
Yeah. I wasn't really listening. I was just waiting for my turn to talk.
I know.
We need you to dial that down about 20%.
I remember in the before times,
Mhm.
people would show up to games with colds
Yeah.
or say like, oh, it's allergies, whatever.
Yeah.
And then what do you know? Everyone in the game has a cold the next day. Nobody does that anymore.
Not in our group.
Yeah.
No, not in our group.
No.
I've never had someone show up to a game a little sick. Like,
no.
Kimmy invited me to a thing that I was super into, and I'm like, I just had a close contact with someone,
right.
you know, who had strep. It wasn't even COVID, but I was like, I don't want to take the chance that I'm going to bring it into
We're
the
all
studio.
so much more aware of this, and I love that.
Yeah, I was very appreciative. I was like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you didn't give me, and then by extension, my 2-year-old
Yeah.
strep, because that would have been a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. And I think that's really important. And we actually have set really strict policies here about like the streaming games. But I mean, we've kind of carried them over into our personal non-streaming games too. But it's like, that's really shitty. Don't do that. Because a lot of us, especially because so many of us are in the industry. I'm not. I'm a teacher, so I have to fucking go to work no matter what because nobody cares. Sorry, that was bitterness. I'm bitter and angry at the government. Anyway, the people in the industry, like if you have cold symptoms, you don't work. So the people who are prop masters and all these things tangentially, who are part of the Happy Jacks family, like there are people who very really can lose a lot of income if they come down with colds, even now. So I think that's also kind of been a wake up call as employers and other people have cracked down on their policies. Because getting a cold while you're hanging out with people can have very real effects in other places.
Yeah,
Right.
cost you money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I work from home, so even when I'm sick, I have to work.
I know.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
the downside of work from home.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, literally, like even if I test positive for COVID, I'm supposed to go teach unless I have symptoms.
Oh, wow.
Jiminy fucking
What?
Christmas.
Yeah, I swear.
Oh, actually, I am too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was this year's contract.
the
that
new
had
the
that
new
language.
rules.
Yeah.
If I test positive for COVID, I'm expected to work unless I have too many symptoms and I do not feel well enough to teach.
But
So-
by remote. Teach by remote.
No,
That
I
was our remote
I
rule.
have to be masked.
Oh.
But
No, I'm not expected to go when I'm sick.
Yeah.
That was a work from home rule.
Yep. Welcome to public education.
Whoa, that blows
In
more than most things that
the
blow.
United States.
Jiminy fucking Christmas. I
Right.
can't even.
That's hard to wrap my brain around.
Yep. And I'm literally the only teacher who still masks every single day on my campus. I don't know. I'm sure there's other people in my city who
Sure,
do
sure,
it
sure.
too. But anyway, email number 3.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Okay, good. So,
It just
Bitterness.
starts out without a hello or anything. How rude.
oh no, I'm sorry. Okay, so this.
Oh, I was gonna blame Cad.
Oh no, Ken is great though. Ken
Okay.
wrote one email that contained multiple topics,
Ah,
and so it was my fault because I
you split it up.
yeah. So
Okay.
they was like, "There's a bunch of topics to use on multiple shows." So these are ones.
So
that
everyone, your homework is go back, find the greeting, pretend I just read it again,
yes,
and then we'll go from there.
yes.
Let's just
Ready?
put one in.
And here we go. Recently, in episode that was again not editorializing, that is as written. There was a discussion in which Batman talked about science and biology with fantasy monsters. Okay, I'm missing a lot, but okay, sure.
It was Adam was here, and we talked about like fantasy monsters if they had actually been real creatures.
Oh, is he just calling Adam Batman?
No. My person
No.
using
Oh,
the
that
handle
would be-
Batman
Names on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh.
wrote in about this. Adam was here for this.
Oh, okay.
It's
Right.
very funny though, because Adam's named like Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, those are two different, distinct things that just happen to be a very cool
How
coincidence.
funny. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you as well. There was a discussion in which someone named Batman talked about science and biology with fantasy monsters. I'm a biologist, so I often look at monsters with a scientific eye. In fact, while still in high school, before I even went to university, I would, before detailing any of my D&D dungeons, first determine 3 things, assuming the denizens were not undead. Can they get enough air? What do they eat? And where does their bleep go? That mindset has
I think
not
it
gone
says
away.
shit.
Yeah, that's shit.
Oh, I'm
Shit.
sorry.
Yeah.
Because I saw it as S caret asterisk T,
Oh.
and I figured that was a bad word. And I don't say bad words.
Wow.
It could be slit go, because that's a whole nother thing with biology.
Okay,
So
all right.
Sure.
That mindset has not gone away.
I'm allowed to say it.
No. Yeah. We'll fix that one in post, right?
It'll be great.
I'm not sure that's PC, bud, but you said it, so.
Unless it's undead or a magic creature, I need to know the biology, as well as the cultural and evolutionary development of the creature if it's a major player. Otherwise, I'll wing it, but it's always going to be a significant consideration. If I can't make sense of it, even in a fantasy world, I don't use it. That's why I've never included an ear seeker in a single one of my adventures. Seriously, what's with these things? Do they eat wood or people? And if they're hanging out in the door waiting for an adventure to come through, do they hibernate? If so, how do they wake up so quickly? Do they wander through the door? What would destroy the door, as anyone who has seen termites at work would attest to? Is there one or many? How do I know what to position themselves in the door? Human or halfling height? And how does something evolve to that niche, hide in a door, and then affect creatures' ears again? Seriously? Anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. I'm not saying everyone has to get as detailed as I can get, whether I want to or not, but it might be something to keep in mind in the back of your head. Which isn't what that exactly says, but you got the gist. Thanks to the whole crew for sharing your wisdom all these years. Ken from Canada.
All right.
Also, expertly read.
Yeah,
I think really good.
well
I think you
done.
really
Yeah.
like that was
As
solid.
we were all losing our shit. You did a great job of staying on target and getting through it very professionally. Glad somebody hears. Yeah, no, I love these questions because, like, when you think of the evolution of something, you're like, oh, okay, hey, because, okay, like, a lot of people have a mistaken, and I have to work with this with students a lot, like the mistaken idea of evolution being driven by need, and
Oh.
it's not. It's fucking chance. Like, they're like, oh, giraffes needed to reach tall leaves, so they slowly got a longer neck. No, you can't wish things onto yourself. It's like, no, one lucky giraffe was a little taller. And because they survived better, they boinked a lot of other slits of giraffes.
Is that what you say to your students?
No, I
I'm
don't.
imagining teacher Kimmy.
Yeah.
No, teacher Kimmy says fuck. like an adult.
Giraffes can fuck.
Giraffes.
Giraffes can get it.
I have to be here at Kobe. I can say anything I want.
Exactly. That's why I own the podcast now. So anyway, and then they have lots of little bit taller giraffe babies, and like it's just by chance. Like, so I think it's fascinating, like asking these questions when you come up upon like these fantasy creatures. It's like, oh, like, mimic, like, how did that happen? And it's like, okay, well, it started like a chameleon and then slowly just got fucking better at it. Like,
Yeah.
there was a really talented one who just got a little better. And then it became like octopus level where they can like mimic the textures.
Now,
And then slowly it got even better.
Ken does have the caveat here of like, or if it's a magical creature, like I think the mimic is a good example of like, oh, the wizard did this to fuck with you.
Yeah.
You know.
So where's that line?
But the ear seeker, right? Like nobody made the ear seeker. What was its natural evolution? I think that's a great example of
It is.
this is wild. Why? What? This makes no sense.
You're the enemy of my fun. But yes, that is a good point. I agree. Yeah.
I was looking at this recently. I'm in between getting the game that I owe a bunch of people out the door. I am also working on future projects, and I'm working on a game about dragons. And because it's set in modern day, I feel compelled to at least hint at biology. You know, And I actually sat down with one of the
Is that why on the character sheet there's a where do you poop?
yeah,
Okay. All right.
and how.
Oh, okay.
What about slits?
Nope.
Oh.
Just cloacas.
Cloacas all the way down.
Literally. I sat down with one of the science teachers at school, and I was like, okay, now hear me out. Dragons. But he was pumped. He was ready to talk to me about dragons.
That's so cool.
He's done all this research on flight in general, and is a birder, and has been part of hobbyists who work on human flight contraptions,
Oh.
like winged flight stuff, not hang glide or whatever, right? So
That's terrifying, by the way.
yeah, but like that's his hobby, right? Is to think and work on stuff like that. And I
What
was
a
like,
perfect person to talk to about this.
yeah, right. So I was like, dragons, and
Accidental expert.
and we started talking about like, what would it take for them to be able to fly? They're so big, it doesn't really make sense. You know, what would it mean if like, okay, sure, magic is part of the equation, but if that wasn't going to do all of the heavy lifting,
Literally.
yeah, how could this make, you know, I had one idea of like, what if they had, you know, like helium in their bodies or hydrogen or something. That's how the fire ones could breathe fire, but it doesn't, like, there's no mass ratio where enough helium is in your body and you're not the size of a blimp.
Yeah.
So that none of that worked out, but it was a really fun conversation to just sit down, and in that conversation I came to like, okay, magic. It has to be, because the rest doesn't fucking make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna accept that and roll that forward with like, you know what, they're fucking dragons.
Does that mean when I play, my dragon doesn't have to have wings?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be a design for some of them.
Okay.
Do you actually want to fly? Because no. No, I'm kidding.
The wings are for guidance.
Yeah. Nope, I just shoot straight forward. I'm the guided missile of dragons.
Yep. Somebody toss me.
Have you seen the scientific movie Rain of Fire to help with your
Yeah. That was a major resource that you can believe I'll be citing that in my bibliography, my MLA citation.
Oh man.
So what I actually want to say is I love this. I love this so much. And I love it because there was an article that someone wrote about how increasing the population of wolves in a national park has changed the entire environment of the park.
Yeah.
Because they prey on the deer who are overeating certain areas, and it's changed the course of rivers, and it's changed all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And like understanding how that, I mean, even loosely how that biology works, is really cool, and it brings like some reality into your game, and it brings some lore. I read about someone who had done they decided how chimera nest and what that meant, like what the environment is that they live in and what impact that has on the other, you know, species in the area. And gave just like a little bit of lore, like, oh, you can tell that would be, you know, where a chimera might perch or something like that.
And it also might lead you to want to make a logical connection, like, oh, okay, well, the chimera can nest here, but there probably aren't 20 of them. Right? In an area like this, they must be somewhat territorial. They're big, and also they would just eat all of the local population, right? And then they would die out, so that doesn't make sense.
Right, it'd be like, you know, like wildcats. They have a specific area that they defend, and that's their hunting ground.
And then that might translate to designing an encounter like, oh, I probably shouldn't have 4 chimera here. I'll have like chimera and something else.
Yeah.
Right? Just like that kind of stuff always bugs me. Of like, oh, just put 3 more of them in. That's enough XP. Boom, go. Like, what?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
This is one of our major focuses actually in 4th grade science is ecosystems. And they have this game called Oh Dear that you play, and I know.
Dear God.
It's sort of
I don't get it.
well, you're out on the field, and it's sort of like if you've ever played like Red Rover or something like that, or it's kind of like a game of tag where students are put into different groups. Some of them are the predators, some of them are the deer, and some of them are the resources. And they get to kind of choose what they are, and you get to be like, okay, and then like as the teacher, you'll go over and be like, okay, deer, you're all gonna do this together, and without the predators knowing. And if a predator tags a deer, like it kills them, but the deer then becomes one of the predators. So the students are very able to see, like, okay, when there's not enough predators, the number of deer overwhelms the number of resources. So a bunch of the deer die because they're not able to get resources. And then if too many predators are there, they just murder the entire deer population, and then some of them don't eat. So it's kind of this fun tag game that makes it very visceral and very clear very quickly how that balance works.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool.
It's super fun,
Yeah.
and the kids get to run around and tag each other. They always love games where they get to hit each other.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
don't do that. No.
Makes sense.
I know you're supposed
Tires them out. For
Yeah,
the
you were
next...
yeah,
Very
they're
true.
super chill after that. Oh man, you just have to make sure you don't do it the same day they have to run the mile. But having that like very clear and having people understand that, and then like incorporating that, because that's a very important thing. And it can make, I feel like it adds like realness to a campaign, that even if people aren't necessarily like really thinking about it, like there can't be 3 chimeras here. They're not enough. And that's not
Right.
right. I'm not doing an impersonation of you.
By all means, that was a perfect
Yeah.
pitch perfect.
Pitch
Like
perfect.
that's
Yes, no, and I think that but I think
Stroke
it's
your beard while you do it.
yeah. I think it's one of those things that people like subconsciously like understand, and it makes things feel realer to them. It's like when you play by like well-known scientific rules when you're doing a sci-fi game or something like that. And like if someone jumps out an airlock, it's like, oh, they're dead. And if they come back, you're like, wait, that's not how that works.
Oh, the Hitchhiker's Guide says you have 29 seconds.
Okay.
Being in open vacuum. So.
Okay, that's good. I'm sure that, I mean, who knows, maybe. But
2001 says the same thing.
yeah. I know that Princess Leia was able to jump out of a thing. No, I'm just,
That never happened, and it's
Nope.
completely out of my brain. I'd like to clarify right now.
that is the thing that is
But
not
that's-
in any movies.
That's right.
But that was a magician did it.
I know.
Yeah,
Like-
she's a wizard.
Yeah.
So
Space wizard. So
Okay.
Star Wars is not science fiction.
It's
I will
science
not
fantasy.
No.
back down from that.
Yeah, it's
Right, but it still annoyed the fuck out of everybody because it broke. Like,
Oh, actually, that's a really good example.
Yeah,
Now that you mention it.
it's like even though there's these breaking of the rules in the canon, it still annoyed the fuck out of everybody because that's just a little too far.
Right. No, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking. Okay, now I've connected it. Thank you for explaining. Because we're talking about fantasy in a kind of real world.
Yeah.
How do you make these things fit together?
Yeah, and
Where did Jedi poop?
but like you going in and like thinking these things through with your dragons is going to make people like buy into it more, because it's not going to be these things that are like, oh, I guess I'm just going to kind of hand wave that I believe that, because it's like you've thought it through.
Yeah, and I'm gonna try to have it make sense somehow, because I'm also thinking about like how would unicorn graze? You know, like what would that actually look like in the modern world, and trying to connect.
If they
thought about
can't, they have a
that a lot.
horn, like they hit the ground. Like, how do they actually get down to the grass? That's
oh,
your
they're
question?
carnivores.
Yeah, they're carnivores actually.
Their
It's-
head doesn't like hit, like the forehead doesn't go down. Have you ever seen a horse graze? Their forehead still
The
points
horn
forward.
would point,
Yeah.
but they don't eat grass, so it's not an
That's
issue.
true. That's true. They have the murder horn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're horrendous monsters.
If you ever want to like a unicorn expert, like I know you may not have one on campus, but you know me.
I will consult you on this, but you seem to not be aware that they're carnivores, which is concerning in my hiring practice.
No, I mean, I just said that if they bowed their head down, it wouldn't.
Oh,
wouldn't
like
make
if
it
they
right.
were like goring a corpse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
It totally makes sense that unicorns. Why else would they have that horn in evolutionary purposes?
Right.
Murder.
I mean,
Why do they have the rainbow
rhinos
tail,
are
though?
vegetarian.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll
That
give
you
you that
know of.
point. Yeah.
Oh,
Whoa.
What do they do in the
Vegetarian for
shadows?
show?
Why are they really endangered?
So I love that you guys all like think so much about this or whatever. I could not care less.
Like,
Like,
oh,
like
that's good, that's a
honestly,
good
like I
perspective.
am completely like, whatever works here that's fun. Like, I usually try to keep a theme. So it's like, well, you're going against undead this week. You're going against fantasy creatures this week. You're going against this week, but not a single thought to like what they eat, where they poop, what they like, not one bit.
I love it. I love
It's
it.
because for me, it's like it's all magic. We're throwing fireballs. Like the world is, we can change reality.
The heroes aren't taking bathroom breaks.
Exactly. I don't even have my characters eat rations or like
Oh, shit,
like,
that's fair. Yeah,
have
me
like
neither.
weight encumbrance or like
All right.
anything else. I'm like,
Fair.
it's fine.
I'll just say that one of my favorite things was in the Dragon game, in the older editions, they would have like an environment.
You mean my game?
Monsters. No. That's a good Dragon game.
I actually think I might title it that.
The Dragon game.
Just to snag some SEO. That's a serious maybe.
All right.
For me.
Yeah. But I always like that they'd have like an environment or a little bit of information about how this thing lives, even if it was utterly ridiculous.
Right.
Like, honestly, the rust monster makes zero sense in any way, shape, or form. But it was kind of neat. Yeah, exactly. But it was kind of neat to be like, oh, they typically are found in these areas and do this.
Nice.
Maybe I was just a nerd.
Was?
I'm sorry, nerds are not allowed in this studio. You have to get out.
All right, you heard it. Out.
This is,
we're all leaving. Goodbye.
this is the Cool Kids Tabletop Role-Playing Game Podcast.
Yeah, no nerds here. Thanks. And anyway, thank you for joining us for season 31, episode 10 of the Happy Jacks No Nerd Podcast. My name is Kimmy.
Jason.
Oh, you're still here. Okay.
Mine.
Nerdberg.
I'm Nick.
Please visit gemroomgames.com to support our amazing indie designer of the month, Gemroom Games. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join them at happyjacks.org/Patreon. And today we're going to leave you with a song called Drink Till I Die by a group named the Poxy Boggarts. You can find them at poxyboggarts.com, I think, or something. I don't know. Google it. It'll be fine. And
these must be some new kids on the block.
yeah, they're super new. No, they've been
Is
around.
the lead singer still alive?
Oh, boy. There it is. I was trying to think of how to do it. Oh, that was beautiful.
I think so. But have you guys seen my new katana?
It's named Stu.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
It's 3:30 and the chill is gone. It's the longest binge I've ever been on. Have so many pints my mind's to provide, but through all the haze I still hear them cry. A curse to you lads, a curse on your heads, drinking pint after pint until I am dead. I just keep drinking and I don't know why. But tonight is the night that I drink till I die. It's 4:45 and I'm still going strong. Is this the only place I truly belong? To make it all end, I the good Lord beseech, lying on the floor with my drink out of reach. A curse to you lads, a curse on your heads, drinking pint after pint until I am dead. I just keep drinking and I don't know why. But tonight is the night that I drink till I die. 'Tis 6 in the morn, don't remember my name. I see all the faces, they all look the same. And the puke on the floor makes a terrible stink. What is this demon that makes me want to drink? A curse to you lads, a curse on your heads, drinking pint after pint until I am dead. I just keep drinking and I don't know why. But tonight is the night that I drink till I die. 'Tis now nearly noon and the spinning has stopped. There'll be no more drink to the floor I do drop. And there's old Nick sitting there at Hell's Gate. He smiles at me as he patiently waits. A curse to you lads, a curse on your head, drinking pint after pint until I am dead. I just keep drinking and I don't know why. But tonight is the night that I drink till I die. A curse to you lads, a curse on your heads, drinking pint after pint until I am dead. I just keep drinking and I don't know why. But tonight is the night that I drink